Hello guys. So in the previous video, we have discussed about primary lymphoid organs. So if you haven't gone through that video, ఒకసారి ఆ video చూసేసి వచ్చి ఈ video చూడండి because this is a continuous video. So coming to this topic, it is secondary lymphoid organs or peripheral lymphoid organs. So the other name of secondary lymphoid organs is peripheral lymphoid organs. Other name of primary lymphoid organs is central lymphoid organs. Done. సో కమింగ్ టు ది సెకండరీ లింఫాయిడ్ ఆర్గన్స్ సో జనరలీ మనం ప్రీవియస్ వీడియోలో ఏం చూసాము సో ఏవైతే లింఫోసైట్స్ విచ్ విల్ బి growing and attaining the immunocompetency, they will come to the secondary lymphoid organs where they will be stored and waiting for the antigen anamata. So that is it. So secondary lymphoid organs ఏంటంటే primary lymphoid organs కి opposite, that is during the time of birth అవి it will be smaller during the time of birth but gradually they'll be developing as the age advances. అదే మనం primary lymphoid organs లో ఏం చూసాము, as the age advances the primary lymphoid organs will be degenerated and చూసాము. This is opposite in case of secondary lymphoid organs, and the secondary lymphoid organs are present throughout the life. And so ఈ organs లో mature lymphocytes will be modified as actively activated lymphocytes. So lymphocytes ఏవైతే mature అవుతాయో primary lymphoid organs లో will be activated here, and this secondary lymphoid organs will be providing the space for the interaction of lymphocytes with the antigen. I have already said, so lymphocytes వచ్చి ఇక్కడ store అవుతాయి and they will be encountering the antigen. So ఈ antigen encountering కానీ filtration process కానీ everything will be done by the secondary lymphoid organs. So as discussed, primary lymphoid organs, thymus, bone marrow, and bursa fabriceus ఎలా ఉన్నాయో, secondary lymphoid organs are also three types. That is lymph nodes, spleen, and MALT, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. So coming to the first lymphoid organ, that is we call it as lymph nodes. So lymph nodes are nothing but bean-shaped structure. If you see, this is a bean-shaped structure laga ఉంటుంది, and it is throughout the length of the lymphatic vessel of lymphatic system. You can see this lymph nodes. Complete lymphatic system ఎంత length లో ఉంటే all the length you will be finding this lymph nodes అన్నమాట. సో కమింగ్ ఒక్కొక్క పార్ట్ గురించి డీటెయిల్ గా చూద్దాము. ఐ జస్ట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ బై షోయింగ్ యూ ది డయాగ్రామ్. సో లింఫ్ నోడ్ లో ఇట్ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ ఎ గ్రూవ్, ఒక స్మాల్ ఓపెనింగ్ ఉంటుంది, దాన్ని వి కాల్ ఇట్ యాజ్ హైలస్. సో ఈ హైలస్ ద్వారానే ఆర్టరీస్ as well as veins will be entering into the lymph node. Done. So arteries will be entering, veins will be existing. So through an hole or through an opening, which we call it as hilus. Done. First point. Next, there is an two lymphatic ducts, which we call it as afferent lymphatic duct and efferent lymphatic duct. So afferent lymphatic duct ఏం చేస్తుంది అంటే it will be carrying the lymph into the lymph node. Done. So it will be carrying the lymph into the lymph node, and efferent lymphatic duct ఏం చేస్తుంది, it will be taking out, that is the lymph ఏదైతే ఉంటుందో that will be going out through the efferent. So afferent will be getting the lymph and efferent will be taking back the lymph. This is the difference. ఇది గుర్తుంచుకోండి. Then so next, so ఈ lymph node, it is covered by a capsule, by an outer layer which we call it as fibrous capsule. Outer layer ఉంటుంది అనమాట, that is covered by a layer which we call it as fibrous capsule. Next, capsule will be transversed inside. So లోపలికి ఒక transverse grooves లాగా ఉంటాయి, like this. So grooves లాగా ఉంటాయి, grooves ని we call it as trabeculum. Then next, so this each lymph node will be having three areas. I mean dividing into three areas అనమాట, three regions అనమాట. So they are outer cortex, middle paracortex, inner medulla. Then so these are the three layers అన్నమాట. So cortex లో you'll be finding the B cells అన్నమాట. Done. So in the paracortex you can find the T cells. In the medulla you can find both B as well as T cells. Done. So cortex లో only B cells, paracortex లో T cells, and medulla లో you can find the both kind of cells, that is B cells and T cells. Done. So cortex లో ఏవైతే lymphocytes ఉంటాయో they are very abundant. You can find abundant lymphocytes in the cortex. So ఈ abundant lymphocytes అన్ని fuse అయిపోయి they will be forming as an primary follicle. This rounded structure which we call it as primary follicle లాగా form అవుతుంది. And there are again one more follicle called as secondary follicle. So this secondary follicle is present inside the primary follicle. So in secondary follicle, there are certain centers which we call it as germinal center. So germinal center is an area where rapid development of lymphocytes. So lymphocytes యొక్క rapid development, rapid activation అనేది మనకి germinal center లో అవుతుంది అన్నమాట. Done. So this is about the primary follicles, secondary follicles, germinal center, cortex, paracortex, and medulla. Next. So medulla లో there is a connective tissue which we call it as medullary columns. EV. These are the medullary columns. This is not cords, this is columns. So this is the medullary columns. So ఈ medullary columns లో lymphocytes will be arranged according with their fibers. So వాటి fibers ఒకటి lymphocytes will be arranged. So ఈ columns అనేటివి get separated by an area like this, which we call it as medullary sinus. Done. So ఈ sinuses are called as medullary sinuses అని అంటాము. They will be having the plasma cells. So medullary sinus will be having the plasma cells అన్నమాట. So yeah, it will be having the plasma cells. So ఎలా అయితే lymph nodes నుంచి flow అవుతుందో like this, ఇట్లా afferent నుంచి it will be flowing through the efferent article. So in this flow, lymph లో ఏవైతే antigens ఉంటాయో that will be captured by this B cells, T cells, B lymphocyte, T lymphocytes, plasma cells, and they'll be killing those antigens. So this is how the activation of lymphocytes and capturing the antigens and killing the antigens will be done. So this is all about the lymph node. So ఒక్కసారి అర్థం కాకపోతే కొంచెం బ్యాక్ చేసి మళ్ళీ అన్ని వినండి. వెరీ క్లియర్. ఇఫ్ యూ రిమెంబర్ ద డయాగ్రామ్, యూ కెన్ ఈజీలీ అండర్స్టాండ్ దిస్. 3 parts. Each part will be having different kind of lymphocytes. Hilus is an opening through which arteries enter, veins will be existing. Afferent lymphatic duct nunchi lymph will be entering into the lymph node. Efferent lymphatic duct nunchi lymph will be going out. Then this is about the lymph node. Coming to your next secondary lymphoid organ, that is we call it as spleen. So spleen is nothing but a bean-shaped structure. You can see it is in a red color structure located in the abdominal cavity towards the left side below the abdomen, below the diaphragm. So abdomen lo you can see the spleen left side below the diaphragm. So spleen function kuda same like lymph nodes anamata, filtration of the antigens. Evaithe antigens blood lo untayo that will be filtered by the spleen. So spleen lo mali two types, two regions untayi. ఎలా అయితే lymph node లో 3 regions చూసాము మనము. సో outer will be the red pulp, inner will be the white pulp. Done. So red pulp లో ఏం cells ఉంటాయి అంటే it will be having the phagocytic cells and the plasma cells. So white pulp లో it will be having the lymphocytes, that is B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes will be there. This is about the outer red pulp and inner white pulp. Same. ఇందులో కూడా blood will be entering, so that the phagocytes, plasma cells, T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes will all be capturing the antigens and killing the antigens ultimately. And e function to part, spleen have some other functions also. So spleen we also call it as graveyard of RBC. Ante whatever RBC which have been destroyed, which have been undergone the process of expire and 120 days tarvata. So this RBCs, age-based RBCs will also be destroyed in the spleen. That's the one function. Next, ఎప్పుడైనా ఎమర్జెన్సీ వచ్చింది, there is an emergency where your body needs more amount of RBC cells. So అప్పుడు కూడా the spleen will be functioning and it will be synthesizing the RBC in case of emergency. Next function అయితే ఇప్పటిదాకా మనం చూసింది. It will be filtrating the antigens and helpful in the cell-mediated immunity by T lymphocytes, humoral immunity by B lymphocytes, ultimately producing the antibodies. So these are all the functions of the spleen. Red pulp will be outer part and inner part will be the white pulp. Done. So let's see the TS of the spleen. So this is about the spleen's TS. Again, it will be having lobules, trabeculae. It will be having the white pulp. It will be having the red pulp. Red pulp having the phagocytes and plasma cells. White pulp having the lymphocytes, that is T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. Same blood enter అవుతుంది, it will be filtering all those substances and killing those antigens ultimately. Coming to your last secondary lymphoid organ, which we call it as MALT, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. That. So ఏవైతే lymph nodes, so generally lymph nodes అనేటివి which are distributed through various regions, like it are distributed through alimentary canal, respiratory tract, urinogenital tract, everywhere you can see this lymph nodes. సో ఏదైతే లింఫాటిక్ టిష్యూ ఆర్ లింఫ్ నోడ్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ ప్రెసెంట్ ఇన్సైడ్ ది ట్యూబ్ లోపల ఉంటే వాటిని వి కాల్ ఇట్ యాజ్ మాల్ట్. సో lymphoid tissue is present all over the body. But if it is present inside any tubes like alimentary canal లో కానీ respiratory tract లో కానీ urinogenital tract లో కానీ కనిపిస్తే you call it as malt. So generally 50% of total lymphoid tissue will be consisting of the malt. సో మాల్ట్ లో ఏముంటుంది అంటే ఇట్ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ ది లింఫోసైట్స్ అండ్ ఇట్ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ ద మ్యాక్రోఫేజెస్. ద అల్టిమేట్ ఫంక్షన్ ఏంటి అంటే ఇట్ విల్ బి కిల్లింగ్ ఆర్ ఇట్ విల్ బి యాక్టివేటింగ్ ది యాంటీజెన్స్ ఆఫ్ వైరస్ కానీ ఆఫ్ బ్యాక్టీరియా కానీ ఇట్ విల్ బి ఇన్యాక్టివేటింగ్ అనమాట. దట్ సో దిస్ ఇస్ ది ఫంక్షన్ ఆఫ్ ది మాల్ట్ surrounding all your mucosal areas generally. So mucosal areas of alimentary canal, respiratory tract, urinogenital tract will be having the malt, and function is to inactivate the antigens by lymphocytes and by the macrophages. Examples icharu, when the lymphoid, malt is present in the alimentary canal, we call it as Peyer's patches, tonsils, appendix. These are all the malt, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. If it is associated with the gut, that is alimentary canal, we call it as gut associated lymphoid tissue. So this is about your 3 types of secondary lymphoid organs. So in the previous video, we have discussed about primary lymphoid organs. In this video, we have discussed about secondary lymphoid organs. In the next video, we'll discuss about the questions, that is PYQs of lymphoid organs, covering both primary lymphoid organs and as well as secondary lymphoid organs. Hope you like the video. Thank you.